Welcome to the debut episode of This Week in Colerain Cardinals Athletics here on wearecolerain.com and ESP Media powered by Sidearm Sports. My name is Jason Griefer, and we are joined by Colerain Athletic Director Craig Hewland and Assistant AD Mike Wiseman. What this is going to be for Cardinals fans out there that are going to be tuning in and watching this and also listening to this on all your podcast platforms, kind of a weekly inside look about what's going on with Cardinals athletics through the various sports. Obviously, we're going to be in the winter season right now. And we'll kind of see how things are going, players that stand out, games that are coming up, all those kind of things. Fans will get a feel for this as we go along. But Craig and Mike, good to have you here with us. Let's jump right in. And one of the things I want to touch on first is kind of the era that we're in, and obviously all the COVID-19 stuff that's still going on. Everybody's been affected by it. Now we've gotten through a fall sports season. We're moving into the winter, and that's what we're going to start talking about here in just a moment. But Craig, I'll start with you first, and then Mike, you can take it from there. Have you found yourself, now that we're going into the winter season, kind of getting a better feel for how to operate under all these protocols? And how much has all this been an effect on this winter sports season?
Yeah, definitely. I think, obviously we faced the challenges early in the fall, and we made adjustments, and we kind of figured out. And after a few weeks of hosting events, it became second nature. So now that we're in the winter, we've been fairly healthy for the most part, and we've been pretty successful with our events and whatnot. And I think at the end of the day, we're gonna complete this season. And I think that's been kind of the MO with the OHSA all year, is we're gonna complete the season. We're going to compete. We're going to play games. It's up to individual school districts to compete if they feel they're safe enough. And, minus the fact of your program might, be shut down for a week or two because of COVID, we're going to continue playing, and we're going to eventually make it to the postseason and hopefully have a successful postseason.
Mike, how has it been for you? Are you still working on a more day-to-day basis, or have you yourself gotten a better feel for how things are going to operate and maybe have a better idea of how to put schedules together and all of that?
Well, it's kind of an interesting perspective now, moving from being the head coach of the boys soccer program this fall and kind of getting introduced to it that way. So we had a few hiccups there with the soccer season, but ultimately it was just about trying to get our coaches now to understand that, we have to do things a little bit differently. We can't operate under a normal schedule, kind of our normal routines that we've done. And for the most part, I'd say most of our coaches have kind of embraced that idea and kind of adapted their schedules and their practices and things like that to make it, more conducive to make sure that we do have a full season and, obviously get to the postseason, which we were able to do in the fall. And, as it looks now, I think we're able to do that here in the winter. So looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And now let's start talking about some of the individual sports. And this is going to be kind of the theme going forward for Cardinals fans who tune in each and every week, either to watch this on wearecolerain.com or to listen to it on their favorite podcast platforms. Let's start on the hardwood. Let's start with boys basketball. And it's been a tough season. They have 0-10 to start the year, 0-5 in the league. It's just been a tough go of it. And sometimes that happens. And you also play in a difficult league. The GMC is not easy. Anybody in and around Cincinnati knows that. So get a chance to get things going. Sycamore and Lakota East scheduled coming up here soon. So Craig, let me start with you. What in the way the season has gone and things have just been so tough, what's been the mindset of the players to this point? And how is Coach Cosgrove trying to work with them to keep them up, keep them pumped, keep them motivated, and keep bringing that fight each time they're on the floor?
Well, I think, at the beginning of the season, kind of off to a slow start. They were shut down for a couple of weeks, which is tough. It's tough on the kids. It's tough on the coaches. They want to be out there practicing, playing, scrimmaging, preparing for the season. Overall, I think there is significant improvement from last year. There was a little bit of growing pains, offensively, running new offensive schemes and defensive schemes. I think there is a lot of improvement there. We've been really competitive in a lot of the games this year. Mm-hmm. I think another piece to that is that all the challenges from rescheduling, the amount of games that have been rescheduled, whether it's due to our team or another team. It's just a matter of keeping the kids focused, keeping them on a schedule, keeping them on a routine, because it's very important how it plays out on the court.
Mike, you know that as a head coach yourself and what we had to go through this past fall and all the hoops you have to jump through to get a season in, the readjustments, the moving of all the bits and pieces. How would you say Coach Cosgrove has handled all those challenges thus far?
Well, not just him, but all of our coaches. It's an obvious challenge, and it's just about being flexible.
Mhm.
You can't be, as much as you want to be on the same routine every week. You just have to learn to be flexible, and I think he's done well with that. Get his guys to play hard, and scouting new teams, and then might have to change a game plan because the game's rescheduled, and they have to look to another team. So it's a difficult challenge, but I think we're up to that challenge. He's done a pretty good job with that.
Over on the girls' side, a really good season thus far. 7-5 overall, but most importantly, 5-3 in the GMC, coming off of a 90-18 rout of Middletown most recently. And the big thing is with that, 5 GMC wins already, equaling the win total of the past 2 years combined. So huge leap this season. Mike, let me start with you first here with the girls' team. What's been the biggest key for this jump and the wins piling up, and what has Coach Hayes been talking about during this run?
I think it's about his group of girls have now become kind of more mature. Have had a bunch of experience playing varsity as young kids, and then now they're stepping to be sophomores and juniors, and they've kind of been there. And obviously the girls are fantastic. But I think they've bought into what his program and what he's trying to sell to them, and you can obviously see the gains that they've made over the last couple of years. But they're extremely disciplined, play really good defense, very athletic, and really play for one another. So,
Craig, let me talk to you a little bit about Abigail McNally and how good she's been. And I'm looking at the leaderboards right now in the GMC. She's second in the league in scoring at nearly 21 points per game. She leads the league in rebounding at 10.5 per game. She's second in steals in the GMC at 3.5 steals per game. Also third in blocks at 1.5 blocks per game. She's filling the stat sheet every single night out, to say the least. How good has she been from your perspective?
Very good. I'm glad you brought it up because if you weren't, I was going to. I think, like Mike said, the program has made tremendous strides in the last couple of years. But, we're fortunate enough, in my opinion, that we got the best all-around player in the league. And obviously, she's a difference maker every time she takes the floor. The amount of rebounds she gets every game is it's fun to watch.
And she's certainly been really good consistently throughout. And that's the thing that I've looked at and seeing is it's been every single night out. It's not just been a 6-point game followed by a 40-point game, and it kind of conflates the numbers in that regard. She's been really good throughout there for sure. Let's switch gears here. Let's move on to the bowling lanes, and let's start with the boys first. And a really good start to the GMC season as well for the boys here. They're 3-1 to start this season in the GMC. They're in a 4-way tie for first. Right now, busy week coming up ahead. You got Oak Hills coming up here. They're right behind you in the standings. They're 2-1, off to a good start here. One of the players I want to talk about, and Craig, I'll start with you first, is Ryan Johnson and his progression from freshman to sophomore and now to junior year. He's up to a 212 average, which is just insane for anybody who doesn't bowl or just is a very amateur bowler. But he's also increased his average by 10, 12, 13 pins every single year. What's been the most impressive thing to you in seeing him grow like that year in, year out?
Honestly, I just watched him last Wednesday against Princeton, and I had actually sent a message to Mike about Ryan individually through a game of 255, and it's very impressive to watch a young man that skilled, and it's not just him. We got a couple other players on the team that can put up some significantly high scores, and I think that's the reason why they're sitting in a tie at first place in the GMC. So there's a lot to be proud of with the boys team.
How big of a challenge has it been for these two teams? And we'll talk about the girls specifically here in a second, but just to train, to practice, because this is an area where you may not necessarily have the availability of lanes that you would normally like to. How has that been for them?
They got a really good relationship with Colerain Bowl. It's a half a mile from the school.
Mm-hmm.
They've been practicing and playing there for a long time, so they've been very fortunate to have that good relationship. And anytime that they need to get in there and practice and host matches, Colerain Bowl has been very helpful. So it's been very beneficial for us. Not every school has an alley that close to their school like we do.
Yeah.
Colerain Bowl also hosts the sectional tournament every year. So it's a good place to practice, good place to bowl. It's great to have in your backyard.
Yeah, Mike, over on the girls' side, they are mid-pack in the conference, 2-2, but not that far off from the top as everybody's really ramping up league player. They'll get Oak Hills coming up this week, and beat Oak Hills, you got a chance to move into a tie for third place. So again, everybody's really tight right now. And looking at the scores and the way your team has bowled thus far on the season, what's impressed me is the level of consistency really throughout the roster. I mean, looking at this, you've got 3 bowlers averaging between 182 and 192. And 3 others are in the mid 60s each match out. About trying to build consistency from match to match to match. How has this coaching staff gone about getting these bowlers to produce consistently like this each time out?
Well, it stems from the coaching. It's you got a coach who was one of the top bowlers in Colerain history, so she's been there. So she brings a wealth of experience and knowledge when trying to teach that to the girls. And obviously it's beginning to show, and maybe not getting frustrated by a game and just kind of stay in the course and stay in what you're supposed to do, as opposed to kind of getting in those highs and lows. And obviously it's paying off for them, and then we'll see as the season progresses if they can continue that consistency, because a lot of times that's what sports is all about. Just sometimes the most consistent team is the one who comes out on top.
And you certainly know as well as anybody, both of you have, and through various sports at Colerain. So certainly good start for them in league play, and a big one coming up against Oak Hills. Let's move on. Let's talk about your academic team. This is an area that doesn't get as much attention as other sports are, because we just don't see a lot of it. Not everybody offers an academic team. You guys do at Colerain, and coming off a very good year last year, 13-5. In a GMC where you have Fairfield Sycamore go 17-1, Mason and Oak Hills, they both win 11 matches. So, this is a very good league as far as academic competition goes. Your team gets the season started this year with a sweep over Princeton. You got Middletown coming next. And, we saw the feature there on wearecolerain.com about this team and how much you have coming back from that team a year ago. So, Craig, let me start with you. How does Coach Dowling feel about what he has returning? And do you feel like it gives them a chance to challenge for the league title, which they haven't won since 2003?
Yeah, I think they're really excited about this year. Finishing second place last year in the GMC, the majority of the kids are returning. There was a lot of excitement last year with the quiz team, and they're looking to continue that trend this year and compete for GMC title. I think it's been a long time since they've had this much success with quiz. And if you talk to Mr. Dowling, Coach Dowling, he's been here a long time and he's been involved with quiz a long time, and he knows that they're capable of possibly competing for a title this year. So it's pretty exciting for the kids.
Mike, when you see these competitors go out in these matches like this, if you're able to check them out and how they go about their business, how impressive is it to you that these youngsters can retain all these different random areas of knowledge and can answer it at the snap of a finger?
Well, I can't take any credit for it, but I've taught, I don't know, half of those kids in class at some point or another.
The humble brag.
I'm not going to take any credit for that, but, having experienced them in class, these are some of the best and brightest kids that Colerain has to offer. They are some of the nicest, smartest kids, and they truly do work hard at their craft. Being a social studies teacher, my favorite question is, do you remember this? Do you know this? And there's a lot of times I look and said, no, I don't remember that. So the fact that they could do that and just that quick instant and that quick having to answer that question, a matter of seconds is just impressive. And they're just some really, really great kids and a great representation of Colerain.
I got to say, Mike, I thought for a second there you were going to tell us you were moonlighting as an assistant coach.
No. I don't hold any water to Coach Dowling. He's the man when it comes to that.
Well, I said assistant coach. I didn't say head coach. We're leaving out to Coach Dowling. Let's move on. Let's talk about another area that maybe doesn't get all the glitz and glamour, so to speak, that basketball or or bowling and wrestling. We'll talk about wrestling here in a second. That's your cheer program. They've had to go through just as much adversity as anybody else. Craig, how has the cheer program navigated the waters here?
Good. A quick shout out to our new head coach, Ellen Hannon.
Mm-hmm.
We're very excited to have her on board. She's a former Colerain graduate, former captain of the cheerleading squad. So she's done a great job this year with the girls, and we're looking forward to the future with Coach Hannon.
And a lot of big things going forward for them, and hopefully sooner rather than later, a sense of normalcy, and we can get back to appreciating all that they do, because they put in as much time and effort as anybody out there in the fields of competition, for sure. Let's move on to the wrestling mats and talk about your wrestling team. I'm going to go kind of get this from two different angles. Let's start with the team and the way they performed right now. We're currently ranked 4th in Southwest Ohio, we like that. Obviously, a lot of people chasing Mason right now, but your team's right there. And some of the individuals want to give a special recognition to right now. Not intending to leave anybody out, but Jacob Brewer at 132, doing very well this far. He's 12-5. And then I look at the 285 there. You've got Jameer Carpenter, Todd Watson there combined 18-3. That's nothing to shake a stick at there. Craig, from your perspective, how pleased are you with the results that you've seen thus far, and also given the fact that they've been able to get quite a number of matches in thus far?
Obviously very excited about wrestling, and job well done so far. I think similar to basketball, there's some scheduling challenges with having to reschedule a lot of our matches. They actually got off to a slow start as well. They were shut down for a couple of weeks in November and in December. But Coach Huber, our head coach, and his assistants, I think they got a great coaching staff, and that kind of leads to their success on the mat. They also have a lot of good senior leadership on the team this year, like you mentioned, Todd Watson and Jacob Brewer, and that definitely helps. A lot of these kids have been wrestling varsity for a couple of years, so the experience is there. And as you can see, the number 4 ranking is right where we expect it to be. But our kids are hungry for more, and the season's not quite over yet.
Mike, I look at wrestling in the winter season as maybe the most difficult to try to pull off a full season, because the obvious factors are there. We can't social distance. You can kind of work your way around that outside of the meets, the duels, the tries, the quads, what have you. But obviously, you got to get together. You got to have that contact on the mat to try to compete there. Do you look at that in the same perspective? This is one of the more difficult seasons to try to pull off in wrestling. And how do you feel like your Coach Huber and your wrestlers have navigated that thus far, given that they've already had to shut down before?
Oh, sorry. Can you repeat the first part? My internet kind of cut out on me.
That's okay. Like I said, we're navigating interesting times here, and I've always thought that wrestling would be the most tough to pull off, because you're in close contact. You can't social distance as much as other sports can. How have you seen that go through this wrestling season? And how has Coach Huber and your wrestlers navigated that, given the fact they've already had to shut down once?
I think sometimes it's a little bit of the luck of the draw too, and that type of stuff. But it's just about trying to impress upon them the importance of doing the little things when you're not expected. Wearing your mask when you are kind of around and things like that. It's making sure you're doing all the little things to make sure that the big picture kind of can be completed. The other shout out to them, they're a program that doesn't really just start up right before the season. These guys are out there in the middle of the summer running around and lifting, and I've noticed them all summer long coaching. So it's no mistake that they've gotten where they are right now. They've put in a lot of hard work, and they deserve all the credit they've been getting. I just hope that we can just navigate these last couple months here and get to that state tournament.
Lastly, before I let you guys go here on the debut episode of This Week in Colerain Cardinals Athletics, I want to kind of circle back to something we touched on at the start of the show, and that is trying to put all of this together so that these student athletes can have the opportunity to compete as close to the highest level as they can, given the circumstances all around us. You, as we said, you guys have gotten through the fall season. You were able to complete the fall season. Now we're in the winter. I'm curious to know how the community has been around you. I'm sure in the fall there were a lot of frustrations because there were so many unanswered questions. And then you have, classmates of kids that want to be at the events. You have parents and family and friends that want to be at these events, and they've just not been able to come out in the numbers that they would like to. What's that support been like for you now that everybody's sort of adjusted to how things are?
Well, I think you're right. I think in the fall there was a lot of frustration. There was a lot of questions. We had to implement some things pretty quickly, like online ticketing, which was new for everybody. Obviously, the social distancing, sitting in groups of four, wearing masks, and like I said earlier, it's become part of our routine now, our daily routine, whether it's practicing or hosting events. And our community is used to the expectations. They know
Yep.
what to expect when they come into our venues.
Yep.
They know what to expect, for the protocols with games. The one thing that we have done that's been pretty successful, and we've got a lot of positive feedback, is we have been streaming our winter contest through Facebook Live. We have the We Are Colerain Facebook page that's tied to the website. It has about 4,500 followers, and we stream our girls basketball games, our boys basketball games. Wrestling has done a good job streaming their events. Bowling has been streaming their events as well. So that's been the one nice thing about the limited attendance is we're still trying to promote the contest, virtually through a streaming option.
Mike, how's that community support been from your perspective, not only as a soccer coach, but also as an administrator?
Like Craig said, it's kind of been an evolution of frustration to, I wouldn't say acceptance, but the fact that this is what we have to do for the kids, because that's ultimately the most important thing. Yeah, we might want to come watch a game, but it's about the kids playing the sports. And if that means, personally as a parent with my kids, if that means only I can go to the game, then so be it. I'd rather my kid be able to play and compete in their sports than worrying about 1,000 people being able to watch. So it's kind of that acceptance. We've kind of moved to that support of, okay, let's make sure the kids have the season, and we've worked to make sure, like Craig said, to stream the games and to make sure that they still had the ability to view their kids. And we've even got some where they may not have, an aunt or an uncle or a grandpa in, Wisconsin or, other parts of the country that can now tune in that previously never could. So
Yeah.
it's kind of had unintended, consequences that we really weren't expecting when we started this. So it's some for the better.
Yeah, no doubt. And one of the things I also want to mention here as we're wrapping up the show here today is, you two have doing more selfless jobs probably that there is out there, especially when it comes to helping out these student athletes, and that, you can deal with all the frustrations, but at the end of the day, you guys are here to serve the kids and help the student athletes compete at the highest level. And so I do want to give credit to the two of you for being able to pull off what you've pulled off thus far, given the fact that there is no playbook for this. None of us were around for the Spanish flu pandemic more than 100 years ago. So we're all trying to navigate through this. So I just want to make sure fans understand how hard you guys are working behind the scenes to pull this off. And I do want to say you guys have done a fantastic job thus far.
Thank you.
And it's been a lot of fun here today, and we certainly appreciate you taking a little bit of time to talk to us here today, Craig and Mike. Looking forward to it in the weeks to come.
Appreciate it. Glad to be on here. Glad to be a part of ESP.
And we are certainly glad to have you as well. That is Colerain Athletic Director Craig Euland and Assistant Athletic Director Mike Wiseman joining us here on wearecolerain.com for the debut episode of This Week in Colerain Cardinals Athletics here on ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.